When I posted my first video about leaving Jehovah's Witness organization, I never envisioned any more than just that video. I think we all have stories to tell, no matter how old that story is. Mine is 20 years old. But as I've gone from YouTube site to YouTube site and heard various people talk, there's one thing that I've heard is that a lot of people say, well, we need to get through this together. And that's really, really very true. Even being separated for 20 years. Well, I became disabled 2 years ago, and when I became disabled, I contacted an old friend who was still in the organization. We had lunch in Circleville, Ohio, about 20 miles away. And that was in 2015. Well, this past December, I was awakened by a knock on my door. He hadn't heard from me, he had tried to contact me, and he had driven down from Lancaster to take me out to lunch. And the medication I'm on to alleviate some of my pain just has a tendency to knock me out. And I'll be very truthful. I was tempted to move back to Lancaster, Ohio, because there is still that temptation. You never forget, and I can look back on the times when I auxiliary pioneered. I can look back on the times when I was giving public talks as a privileged ministerial servant. I can look back on the times that I was doing all of those things. And yeah, even now I can look back and say, I miss them. I miss the camaraderie, and not so much the organization, but the camaraderie that existed. And I think that's one thing that we all miss. We miss camaraderie. After I left the organization, my mom, now I personally think it was at the coercion of the elders. She was 69 years old. She approaches me. We had been cohabiting together for many years. She had gotten baptized. And she approached me after I disassociated myself, a year after I disassociated myself, and she said, well, I think we need to break up housekeeping, and you need to be able to date and find someone and settle down. I was 39 at the time. And I think that, I personally think that the elders were involved with that decision in the background. I think they used coercion, which using coercion on a woman who is 69, 70 years old is pretty tacky from my standpoint. And because of that, my mom's life was shortened. Nothing can be done about that. She made her decision. I can't override that. And she passed away, of course, in 2004. I found someone and was with them for about 6 years. We had a fairly stable, he was bipolar, so that made a problem. But the one thing that a lot of witnesses coming out of the organization don't do, well, number one, their faith is shipwrecked. After I left the organization, I took up with a gentleman who was several years my junior, by about 10 years. We cohabited for 5 years. After my parents died, they died within a month of each other. My dad was not in the organization. My mom was baptized. We moved to Florida, and he was bipolar, and we'd been having problems for 2 years. And moved down to Florida, and I didn't like it. He did. I said, I'm going back to Ohio, and he said, I'm staying. And it's like, okay, well, we'll separate. When I came back to Columbus, Ohio, is where my company moved me. When I said, okay, I want to go back north, they moved me to Columbus, Ohio. The problem was, here I was now, no significant other. My mom and dad were dead. My brothers lived in Lima, Ohio, which I absolutely abhor that city. I have no religion. Okay, so everything crashed right back down. Because my ex was a very reclusive individual, very, I don't want to meet people, and that rather hurt things. Well, I got involved in ghost hunting at that time. I started making inquiries and became involved with a ghost hunting group in Columbus, Ohio, and actually, it filled the bill quite nicely. I made some very good friends. I'm still friends with many of them in Columbus, Ohio, even though I live here in Chillicothe. I haven't seen them in a while because driving to Columbus with a bad back and hip has a tendency to be somewhat painful. But I filled my life, and of course I was also been in my particular field of work for several years. And so I was a valued employee. So I had my work and my friends, and for me, as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, I know there are those Jehovah's Witnesses who will go and hang out at bars. I mean, which is all well and good. I'm not judging. I just recently applied to both the Eagle and the Moose. But I didn't enjoy going to gay bars and all the gay things. I'm just a little, I don't have to wave a gay flag in anyone's face to announce that I am gay. Okay, that's just my viewpoint. I just recently took to putting a gay flag on the lapel of my suit jacket when I go to church. And yes, I did finally break down, and I'm attending a United Methodist church. But the point being is that when we come out of the organization, we have to have something to latch on to. We can't just go rudderless through life. When I left the organization, my mom took her own place. I met my ex, Jim. When her health began deteriorating, I was appointed healthcare power of attorney. And I was traveling between Columbus and Lima, checking on both my father and mother, even though I had two brothers in the area, holding together a relationship, managing a fine jewelry department. I had a very, very full plate. I didn't have time to think about being Jehovah's Witness, ex-Jehovah's Witness, or any type of Jehovah's Witness. And in fact, when I moved to Florida, came back to Ohio, once I got the final mourning for my mother out of my system, and I started ghost hunting. I really had a very full time again. I mean, I was going, if not with one friend, then another friend, and we were constantly going everywhere. I mean, I investigated also all over Ohio, including camping out at the Malabar State Park. So I really didn't have time to be concerned about being a Jehovah's Witness, what the Watchtower was doing. When I moved to Chillicothe, it was 2013, 4 years ago, in this fall. It was after I moved to Chillicothe that I became disabled. They found out that I have a debilitating spinal issue, and one of my hips is in terrible shape. The other one is not far behind it. It doesn't surprise me because I was supposed to be in a wheelchair by the time I was 40, so I beat the prognosis, as my doctors tell me. But now I'm finding that I have nothing to work for, and there's a lot that as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses we can do for each other. In this age, in this miracle age of online communication, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses of all ages can have, through Skype, contact with each other. I'm on Skype. Can contact each other. There's no reason why anyone who is facing separation from the organization should do it alone. Absolutely not. When I went through it, I got involved with a gay ex-Jehovah's Witness group, and there was a lot of hate. A lot of people yelling about how much time they had lost and so on and so forth. And here I was, 39, 40 years old. So I'd been out on my own since 18. So you're looking at about 22 years. Of those 22 years, 12 of them, okay, actually less than that. Yeah, about 12 of them, 10, 11, 12, was outside the organization. I mean, the organization played a big role in my life in my 20s and 30s. Whether it was realizing I was gay and dealing with it, or whether it was coming back to the organization and being caught up in all that mind control again. So that was a big portion, and I realized that it's a big portion for anyone to go through. There's no reason why we can't band together. My email is open. Contact me. If you need to Skype, if you are an ex-Jehovah's Witness, or let's say you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, a gay ex-Jehovah's Witness, or a gay closeted Jehovah's Witness, and you need support, contact me. We'll set up a Skype. We'll talk. Coming out of the organization darn near wrecked my faith in a supreme being. Thankfully, I've got my foot on the ground there. This disability has taken the wind out of my sails. And yes, the first time you hit a major rift, and I'm going to tell you, I've been out of the organization 20 years. If people do not think that it has crossed my mind, well, if I just go back to the organization, well, I know that's not an answer. Because even 20 years down the road, it's still going on back here. It is so ingrained. It's still going on. It's not a situation where you just say, okay, I can give it up. It's almost like an addiction because it's a safe zone. It's a safe zone. I'm having to reformulate a life all over again for about the third time in my life. And this happens periodically with all of us. We all go through it. There'll be major ups, major downs, and you'll stop and think, oh, should I have ever left the Witnesses? Because if I would have stayed with the organization, it would have been oh so much better, and it would have been safe and secure. And of course it isn't. I had one really good friend. I've been on Facebooks of people that I knew in the Witnesses and seen how their lives have gone. But they weren't really close friends. We really didn't do anything. I had one good friend, and that's the one that has come down and visited me. So I really urge gay ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, gay closeted witnesses, witnesses who are contemplating leaving the organization, contact me. And I'll be more than happy to talk to you. And as you can see, I've got a beard. And no, I'm not a troll for the society and for the Borg, so you don't have to worry about that. I walked away from the organization 20 years ago. But I just want to put that out there. There are so many resources that we can tie into. And there are so much support we can have for each other physically. I mean, with the technology we have today, someone who is questioning, someone who is a closeted gay Jehovah's Witness in Detroit or Pensacola, Florida, or San Diego, California, fine, Skype. Skype with me if you can. Okay, Skype with me. If you're questioning Jehovah's Witness, I was a ministerial servant. I was a privileged ministerial servant. I gave public talks. Contact me. Believe me, what broke the camel's back there was the 607 BCE erroneous date. And that destroyed, of course, the 7 Gentile times, as well as the date 1914. Once you crumble the date 1914, all other theology falls by the wayside, because that's what they're living for. The 1914 date. That's when Christ was enthroned in his kingdom and so on and so forth. 1914 simply doesn't exist. I just wanted to put it out there. This has ran way too long. We'll let it go. Peace and blessings to everyone who watches.